Getting my firearm rights restored in Washington State was an absolute nightmare. Why that is, and some of the things not to do that I've learned, all coming up in today's video. So I kind of made a mess of the 90s a little bit. Okay. I had some things happen that were keeping me from owning a firearm or even being anywhere near one. And a couple of felonies and some gross misdemeanor stuff. And since then, I've been doing all kinds of stuff to try to, remedy the majority of the 90s. But there was these things that I felt were always going to be there. And I was never, ever, ever going to be able to own a gun legally. So I kind of gave up. And then 2024, so last year, somebody said, well, you should look into it because you never know. There could be a statute of limitations. I'm like, yeah, okay, statute of limitations on felonies, if you say so. But I thought, what the heck? And I checked into it, and I went to Kirchen Law here in Washington State. They are a gun law attorney here. And I went to their website, and I will put a link up for them down in the description box below. But gave them my information, and they emailed me back showing some of the stuff, everything that they found that would stop me from owning a gun, and that I did qualify to have those rights restored. And I'm like, well, that's fantastic. And they said they can do it for $1,250. Well, I had saved up some money for this very reason. And I thought, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just do it. $1,250. Why not? So I paid them the $1,250. And they emailed me back saying, well, you got these 2 felonies. We can also have those vacated and dismissed, which I thought was already a part of that deal, but apparently not. Have those vacated and dismissed for an extra $500. So I'm like, okay, I have an extra 500. This is a one-time shot because after this, I'm not going to be able to afford it, if whatever. So I said, let's do it. And so I paid the $500, and they said, okay, it can take from 6 weeks up to 6 months. I'm like, well, that's giving yourself quite a bit of leeway, but all right, so already paid, so now I just wait. So I waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and the 6 weeks went by, and I'm still waiting and waiting and waiting, and I'm emailing them saying stuff like, hey, any updates you can fill me in on? And they're like, well, we don't really give updates. We'll let you know when it's done via email. All right, so I keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally I get an email saying, congratulations, we've been able to fulfill your request. And they sent me, they emailed me the packets of the completed paperwork. Right here is the order on petition to restore firearm rights granted, signed by a judge. And I was like, that's okay. There it is. My rights have been restored. So I thought, okay, I'm getting somewhere. And then here, I can't show you, but here are the 2 felonies that were vacated and dismissed. So I can now no longer have to say that I've ever been convicted of a felony, because now I haven't. So here I am thinking I'm in grand shape. And with this packet was this frequently asked questions sheet that says, when you get this done, can you go purchase a firearm? Yes, you can. Can you go and get a concealed weapons permit? Yes, you can, and with a bunch of other ones. But just they want you to wait like 90 days for everything to go through and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, so I'm thinking, well, okay, another 3 months. Wow, that's... After all this, okay, so I waited, but in September, now, I forgot to tell you, all this started in March of last year. And then in July is when I got my paperwork back from the attorney. So I waited till September and I said, what the hell, I'm just going to try it. And I went ahead and applied online for my concealed. I thought, you know, being as ignorant as I was, I thought, okay, well, maybe if they, what's the worst that can happen? They'll say no, but why would they say no when I got everything right here? They clearly did background checks. I got a judge signed off on this stuff. I mean, Superior Court judge. So clearly I'm in good shape. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So when I applied for the concealed weapons permit, now remember this paperwork they sent me said I can do this stuff. So I also thought I would outsmart the system. And the next day I went and tried to purchase the firearm. That way I can get both the waiting periods out of the way at the same time. You know, trying to be smart and clever. And that might have worked. Except 2 days later, I get an email from the sheriff's office, Snohomish County Sheriff, stating that I was denied my concealed. And I had to come down to their office to get the reason why. Okay. And so I'm thinking about that. Well, that was, why in God's name why wouldn't I be able to get my gun when everything here shows that I can? And then the next day I get a call from Cabela's, which is where I went to purchase my weapons, telling me that that was denied. I'm like, yeah, I know. We'll get back to you. Okay. So here I am. I go down to the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, which is in Everett, Washington, and inquired. And what they brought me was a case number for a protection order. I'm like, a protection order? What? Why wouldn't something like that have been found when they granted me all this stuff? So now I had to take it over to the county clerk's office to find out what the heck this is all about. So I take this case number over there and they go look it up. Now, this is where everything kind of takes a turn. They go back into their archives or wherever the hell they are, and she's gone for like forever. I'm like, man, how long does it take to look something up on a computer? Well, turns out when she came back, it turns out that she couldn't look it up on the computer because it was not in a computer. It was from 1993. And it was a restraining order from 1993 when my daughter was 1 year old on her mother. Her mother got it. And it was so old, they had to go through actual files to find it. And it was so unreadable because it was so old that she had to upload it to the computer and then superimpose it before she could print it out to bring it to me so it was even readable. I'm like, wow, what on earth? So now I'm looking at it and I see, okay, now there was never any charge associated with this restraining order, but back then I guess they just handed out permanent restraining orders like they were candy. So now I have to figure out how to get this restraining order reversed. And all along I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I even called my attorney. I'm like, hey guys, how is this thing out there when you didn't find it, the courts didn't find it, the prosecutor didn't find it? And let's not forget that for the following 17 years, I had parenting plan, child support, and court ordered, Superior Court ordered visitation rights at my daughter's mother's house every week. And then every 2 weeks and so on as she got older. That would never have happened if there was a permanent restraining order. That is not just keeping me from owning a firearm, but that would have kept me from even going to my daughter's mother's house to see her. It would have had to been through like a third-party mediator or some kind of guardian ad litem or something, and that's just not what happened. So for all that time, even the courts had no clue this thing even existed. So I understand my frustration at that point. It's almost like the universe, at least the universe here in Washington, didn't want me, an ex-felon, to own a gun ever. That's what it felt like. Oh, but we're not done yet. So now I have to get the paperwork, get it turned in to talk to a judge to have this thing terminated. I had to have her mother 30 some years later, I had to have her mom served with the paperwork because regarding her, and go in and have the courts take my side, thankfully, and have it terminated. I mean, all that alone, just to this point, was a massive fiasco. And I'm still confused now of how all this ever happened. Yeah, so once that was done, and I have the restraining order termination paperwork right here. Now, I have all this documentation saying that I'm good to go. Now I just have to wait for it all to go through the system and get in everybody's system. Okay, I waited. Now I'm getting tired of waiting. So I talked to the Washington State Patrol Firearm Appeals Division in Olympia and kept in pretty good contact with them. And they said that there's still a holdup. This is after a bunch of back and forth with her, and let me just say that she was being extremely professional. She was absolutely helpful, this gal at the State Patrol. 100% absolutely professional. Loved it. But apparently, this paperwork from the Superior Court never made it to Everett Municipal Court, and it was through Everett Municipal Court back in '93 when all this restraining order, happened, whatever. And until they get it, it's going to keep flagging right at that point and never get past it. So, okay, I did everything I was supposed to do, and now I got to go down there. So now I'm going down to Everett PD to their frickin' records division with the copy of it and saying, look, here, what the hell is going on? Let's get the ball rolling here. I played all my part. Clearly, the courts are fallible as hell. I mean, we're talking fallible. Finally, I get the email, and I am now allowed to have a concealed weapons permit. There was a lot of bullshit involved just to get to this point, and I'm trying to make it quick. So I got my permit. Now I go back to Cabela's to purchase the gun, and they're saying, oh, well, before you do that, you have to have one of these. And this is a note from a letter from them, from Cabela's, because now I have to appeal the fact that that the gun sale was denied. So I had to take this down to Washington State Patrol, have them give me this, fill it out, have it notarized, send it back to Olympia, get back on the horn with that gal, and and appeal. So you're not just appealing the fact that you couldn't get the concealed, you have to appeal the fact that you couldn't buy the gun too. So at this point, with anybody else, they would have probably said, screw it, it ain't worth it. But I was hell-bent, and I was going to get it done. So she finally, after going through my whole record, after receiving that and everything else, I'm not going to say how many convictions she had to go through. Let's just say that I was dumb in the 90s, so leave it at that. So finally, I have my concealed. I take that back down to Cabela's. They send me they call me and tell me that I can now come and purchase my weapon. Let me tell you something. It was the greatest feeling ever when I went down there to find out that they still had the original weapon stored in the back that I originally tried to purchase, the same one, all these months later, just waiting for me. And I bought the damn thing, and then I waited the 14 days, what's another 14 days? And the day I picked up that gun and brought it home was one of the happiest days of my life, because finally, I have rectified all the bullshit I did back in the 90s and got it over with. So to sum this all up, if you're going to go and try to get your gun rights restored, make sure that you do your research. If you're going to hire an attorney, which I think you have to, do your research. Make sure you put everything down. I didn't know that there was a restraining order from 93. I mean, how the hell could there be? I had freaking visitation rights at her mom's house for all those years, court ordered and everything. And plus, you know, I got attorneys and judges signing off saying that I'm good, but no, got to watch out for Washington state court systems. And whatever you do, just a little bit of advice. Once you don't purchase a weapon, don't try to purchase a weapon until you have that concealed permit in your hand. And do get your concealed permit first. Get that thing. Once you got it, you know you're good. Then go ahead and purchase your gun. I hope this was helpful in any way. I'm sorry it took so long, but there was a lot involved that I didn't tell you about. And just be careful. Happy shooting. And I made a video of my son and I going out and shooting my weapon for the very first time this weekend. And I'll put that at the end as well so you can check it out. It was fun. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching.